Get the YouTube going. Going to start recording. Get the YouTube going. Going to start recording. All right, you're all set.
Thank you. Meeting call to order. Today is Tuesday, December 1st, 2020, the last month of 2020. I can't believe it's gone by that far. Councilman Licciardi will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilman D'Amico, will you lead us in prayer?
Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we pray for your divine presence this evening. Bless us all with your Holy Spirit. Remind us to be patient, thoughtful, and caring when making decisions, and mindful of those who've been chosen to serve. And finally, Father, we ask that you watch over this great town and all of our many great citizens. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here,
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico,
Here.
Council President Goslin. There is a quorum on record. Discussion regarding actions and planning pertaining to address the COVID-19 virus and the impact on the town's operations.
Mark, Town Manager.
Good evening. Just as a matter of a brief update, our public safety departments, wastewater and DPW are operational. Our town hall departments are currently working by appointment only, or through a call from our entryway for services. Just an update on our staffing. Our fire department has three personnel with positive tests that are all symptomatic. 2 additional are quarantined. The police have 1 positive symptomatic officer. Town hall 1 and 1 quarantined. DPW in the same condition, and sewer department has 2. So in total, we have 8 employees that have tested positive and 4 people in quarantine for a variety of reasons.
Mark, with that being said, majority have been, the last time you updated us was a couple of weeks ago, and we had actually a head count of over 20. If I remember correctly, have everybody, nobody's been hospitalized, and has everybody been coming back to work or cleared to come back?
Chief Verone may be able to answer hospitalization. I know we had 2 people that are, I guess, not that they're in jeopardy, but they have other risk factors that they wanted to take extra precautions. But as far as I know, a majority of our employees have had mild symptoms, a couple a little worse, but as far as I'm aware, there's been no hospitalizations.
Thank you.
And almost everybody has returned to work.
There's just 1 person left from DPW that hasn't returned, but there were 3 people in DPW that had, were hit pretty hard by the virus. So apart from that, everyone else is maintaining. It's not easy for anyone. I'm not trying to say that, but there's only 1 person that had to go to the hospital for a short period of time, and he was released immediately after getting some medication.
Well, that's good news.
Discussion, action, vote of town council. Any matters on this portion of the agenda may be acted upon by way of topic discussion and action by the town council with a vote on the record to approve, amend, deny, or table the agenda item. A resolution previously tabled authorizing the transfer of town property to the Arctic Village Redevelopment Agency for the purpose, sale, and support of Newberry Place condominium development located within the Arctic Village Redevelopment District.
I'll move to take the resolution off the table.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Now I need a motion for move the resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Move the second, discussion. And we had a lot of questions last time. I asked Mark Carullo, and I know Jim Marsh is in the attendees. I'm not sure if we can bring him over to the panelist side temporarily. He is the chairman of the Arctic Redevelopment Commission. So we can start off with some unanswered questions from last meeting were, one, what was the appraisal of the land? And I think we got some answers to that, but I want to just make that public. Also, secondly, where does the money go? So we can get those answers publicly. And I'm sure there's gonna be some other questions too. So Mark and Jim, whoever wants to start first.
Council President, I'll begin. I'm not sure what Jim's status is. I know that a notice was sent out to Jim.
He's on.
The attorney for that would be Joe Brennan for the redevelopment agency, as well as the applicants and the applicant's attorney. But the notice that was sent out to them, I think it was because it was late. They're as observers, not really as participants. So I can't see whether they're on or not. I'm assuming they are on.
Yeah, Jim Marsh is on.
Okay, good.
I don't.
Brennan's
see-
on. Brennan was on.
Yeah, I just.
Jasmine was on.
Yeah, okay, all right, great. So following the last meeting, Mr. Council President, you had sent me an email asking for some clarification with regards to the proposal. And one of the other things that I think you requested were the powers and the duties of the redevelopment agency, which are vast. Those powers and duties are established under Rhode Island General Law, Title 45-32. So basically what we've got here is a project where the town was approached by a developer. They had recently purchased a Newberry building, and they were retaining the existing medical offices there. And they were looking to utilize the rear portion of the building, which I believe is a 3-story portion to the rear of the building. And they wanted to convert that building into a mixed use with the offices up front on the main floor, and then build five residential condominiums in the rear portion. In order to do that, they needed to expand their parking. And so they looked at the property lot number, I believe 425, which is, if you're looking at the building from Washington Street, it's just to the right of the property. It's a grass strip located between the Newberry building and the building adjacent to it next door. When the developers originally approached the town, they received an opinion letter from AMC Appraisals, I believe. And AMC Appraisals was looking within the town to find comparable properties to establish a value. They really couldn't find any. They only found one property, which was back in the residential area. And they came back with an appraisal value of $5,500. When we sat down with the developers, we got into a discussion about value added to their property with regard to what the value of that property was. And at that point, they agreed to hire an appraiser. The town provided a listing through the tax assessor of what we believe were suitable certified appraisers, and they were allowed to choose whoever they wanted from that list. At the end of the day, they chose Sweeney Appraisal. So Sweeney went out and they did, and I don't know whether the council has received the appraisal or not. I assume you have.
Yes. Yes.
So what Sweeney did was he expanded his search for comparable sales. And if you look through that, you'll see that they're pretty much in the region, but not in West Warwick. And so they're looking at some properties in each province, Pawtucket, a couple in Warwick, and Coventry. And those properties are the highest, and they're developable properties in the towns that they're in. And he established the highest and best use value. I believe at the end of the day, it was
60,000.
Yeah, but it was square footage, so it was $10 a square foot, basically.
Correct.
So when you look at this property, it's basically a 40,000 square foot lot. It's sandwiched in between two buildings. And in meeting with and discussing, with the applicant, they came back with the appraisal, which I believe was $60,000, but that was based on a square foot per, that value per square foot. But when you look at the property, it's sandwiched in between two buildings. You may be able to build a building on there, but you wouldn't be able to accommodate the parking. Or you may be able to put parking on there, but you can't accommodate a building. So in our discussions, we made a judgment call that, well, if you can put a building and no parking, you can't have a building. If you put a parking and no building, it's probably worth half of whatever the appraisal price was. So we came to an agreement on the value. Also, the town has the property assessed at, I think, $3,900 or something like that. So the developer made an offer or proposal to the redevelopment agency. The redevelopment agency looked at it, and they decided, with regard to their duties and responsibilities, that yes, we would like to see this development go forward. They believe that in exchange for the lower value, but still a $30,000 value, that the return on investment, let's say, for the reduction in value was more than sufficient to consider the lower offer price. And I had responded, I believe, to the city council's request in somewhat of a detailed email. And at the end of the day, for the type of development and the size of development, the city would get a return on its investment of the portion of the reduced value within a year. So then everything after that would be increased tax revenue to the town. And one of the things that the redevelopment agency really liked about the development was they weren't looking for any tax incentives. They were just looking to purchase a piece of vacant property owned by the town to supplement the parking for their proposed condo project. So the redevelopment agency approved the project and made a recommendation to the council, moving forward, that they believed that it was a reasonable request and that they were in support of the project. So that's how the town arrived at the value. There was town staff involved in all of the meetings. The town manager was involved. The tax assessor was involved. I was involved in all of the negotiations and the discussions. We only make recommendations to boards. Boards makes decisions. We only make recommendations to council. Council makes decisions. So the recommendation to the board was positive, and the board gave a conditional approval to the project contingent upon the developer being able to acquire this lot. And then it was forwarded to the council for the council's review and consideration for the request.
Any questions for Mark?
So actually, Mark, what is the size of the lot? I thought maybe you just said something different than I mean, the Sweeney appraisal says, 6,229 or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably correct, Councilwoman. I'm talking off the top of my head without actually reviewing the documents.
Joe Brennan.
So it would be, it's around 6,000 square feet or maybe a little more. I can pull it out because I have the plans
Brennan, hold on one second.
here.
Yep. And I guess the other question is, I know we tell it's not buildable. I know when I was a kid, there was a building there. So, and I understand the parking issue. And I know that's a long time ago, Mark. I'm going to save you from saying that.
Well,
okay. That's all right. Yeah. But there was a building there, and for us to say it's not. So a couple, and I raised some of the concerns. Where did we come up with the 30,000? Sweeney said 60. I understand what the explanation that you've just given. It's my understanding that we have just recently had a sale of a piece of land right in Arctic there, next to Ferrucci's, I think. Is that true? I thought it was somewhere in the $65,000 or $75,000 for a parking lot. Same.
Yeah. So that was a private sale. I'm not sure of the value. Yes, that was a small lot next to Ferrucci's, which had been used without authorization for parking for the Ferrucci's restaurant. That was a negotiated sale between the property owner and Ferrucci. So I think that sale took place, I'm pretty sure it took place after, that's a recent sale. It took place after the appraisal.
But wouldn't that give some pause as to a $30,000 value if that indeed went for 65 or 75? Again, I'm not sure. I think
Ferrucci's went 75.
I'm aware of the sale, and I actually spoke with the restaurant owner, and
okay.
you know, he had made an offer. They went back and forth. The original value, and this is just hearsay, but based on my conversations with someone else, the original asking price was over $80,000 because I believe the owner knew that the restaurant wanted and needed that property for parking.
Yeah.
So he started high, they started low. I think Ferrucci's offer was far below what he ended up paying. And he decided at the end of the day, he didn't want to dicker anymore. That's, you know, so when you're dealing with a private sale, you know, fair market value is when you have a willing seller and a willing buyer, they actually establish the value.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But my guess is that Sweeney would have come up with that as a comparable in his.
He may have. He probably would have. And what that per square foot value is on that lot, I don't know the size, but you could divide it out and it would go into the average of what he did. So you wouldn't just take that value and say that's the value of this lot. It would be blended.
Okay. Again, my concern, I guess, is that we haven't put this up for sale. I understand not buildable. I understand. So we put ourselves in a position to be criticized that we haven't done that.
Yeah, I understand your perspective, and that is certainly an option to put that out for sale or out to bid. You'd probably get only one or two interested parties, and my guess would be, I don't know this, but I'll speculate, my guess would be one of the abutters.
I just want to point out one thing. The Ferrucci's lot has a long history, and that history is well over 20 years. And that actually sold somewhere between 2006 to 2008 up in public auction for around $60,000. And that was actually a buildable lot when that was sold. There was a building there also. That's also a corner lot on any given day. So if Ferrucci purchased that lot and he decided to knock down his building, he now has a very fruitful corner lot where this is in between two buildings, and you can't, like you said, you can squeeze a building in there if you want to, but again, you got no parking. And those are the perks of different lots. You got to look at the situation of the lot, and like I said, that corner lot there is worth a lot more money than a piece of land squished in between two buildings that has restrictions. I'll give you examples that happened in Phoenix about 10 years ago. Everybody from the Phoenix Square Diner to Tony One Stop Auto in the Mill, they were offered a ton of money for their property by Walgreens because Walgreens wanted to go in that section. And it was all because it was in the corner lot. And there was one in particular person that stopped the sale because he wanted, and they offered him $500,000 for a $250,000 building, and he wanted $750,000. So again, Ferrucci's land there is a prime piece of land in the corner of Arctic that if somebody wanted to purchase that whole block per se, that's the key. Where this piece of land is squished in between two buildings. And I want to make it clear because a lot of people thought it was the municipal parking lot between the new condos where KGB Builders is building and JJ Newberry. That is not the lot. It's the lot in between the two buildings where Gara's once was and JJ Newberry's was once there also.
Yeah, and I mean, it's confusing because some of those lots, the lot that we own, the town lot is actually not the one that's adjacent to the Newberry building on the left. It's the one, it goes, it's
In
our,
between.
I'm sorry, in between. Yeah, it's our lot, and then it's the Newberry building's lot, and then it's the Wilbur lot on the left where the Holmes building is. So it's kind of weird the way it's broken up.
So,
And that's not what I'm talking about.
no.
I was trying to clarify for what David had said.
No, and actually the pictures that the appraisal that we got a couple of weeks ago showed it and actually made it clear. I guess I just want to make sure that everybody understands and we all recognize the fact that there was a building there at one point in time. Yes, you couldn't build a building the entire length of that piece of property, but you could put a shorter building and have parking in the back. So it's not to say that a building couldn't go there. There was one once there. My question just becomes the $30,000, and are we willing to have that deep a discount potentially, given the fact that we know, and I agree with you, David, the Ferrucci property is a different piece of property, but it is also, I believe, within the Arctic redevelopment area. So it would have similar restrictions. My concern would be, as you just said, you buy the lot and then you decide to knock down a building. I guess I would want some assurances that this is really going to be a parking lot and not something else, and it's not going to expand to condos later. And I know, Mark, you put some of that in.
I think that they need the parking. I think they need the parking lot in order to have enough parking spaces to do what they want to do. I think that it won't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I believe that's
the sense I got too.
Yes. Yeah, so I did. I understand that would be a concern, and it should be a concern. And some of the language in the resolution, tries to address that concern. The town also has the ability, when they transfer the property, to put restrictive covenants on the deed so that it can only be used for parking. And the restrictive covenant, if it goes on a deed by a seller, and if it's in perpetuity, whoever wanted to remove that would have to come back to the seller, meaning they'd have to come back to the town and request that those restrictive covenants be removed. So there are, I'm not an attorney. I'm looking here, I think we have 3 attorneys on the call. We could ask them for their opinions, but I'm pretty sure that the town would have the ability to restrict the use of the lot and to ensure that it only be used in association or for its intended use. And that if the developer wanted to come back and change it, they would have to come back to the town to remove those covenants.
And Mr. Brennan had his hands up.
Okay, that would be more comfortable. There's no question about that. And then I guess I would ask the interaction with the Arctic redevelopment and the town, and who really has that say and how that works. And that I'm not entirely sure of, because I think this resolution conveys this piece of property to Arctic redevelopment.
Yes, so Arctic Redevelopment Agency is a semi-independent agency related to the town. However, again, if the town deeds something over to an agency or any entity, if they decide to restrict it or somehow determine, what a use should be, or even where the funding should go, the town council has the ultimate authority to do that as part of the agreement in the transaction.
So that would be something that, even a more basic question, Mark, for you then is really one of the sole reasons of having Arctic redevelopment involved in this? Why isn't the town just selling it outright, other than not having to put it on a ballot?
So, couple things. The Arctic Redevelopment Agency reviews all development in Arctic as a
yes, I agree.
They have powers and authorities. The town council certainly could retain the property and sell the property or somehow dispose of the property as they see fit. I'm not sure exactly what the requirements are for the town to liquidate property. I've heard, many versions. I personally believe that it would require a referendum of some sort in order for the town to do that. So it's not something that can be easily accomplished, and it would be up to the voters to determine whether they wanted to, allow the town to sell the property. So when this came up and there were discussions going on, this has been going on for the better part of a year, we were going back and forth. I think there was some inquiries to Solicitor Williamson. I talked to the town manager, talked to the town council president, talked to the councilman for the district, and we were going back and forth. And then I realized, well, the redevelopment agency has the authority to acquire and obtain land, and they also have the authority to sell property. So and that is one of the reasons why redevelopment agencies exist under state statute. So my thought was, well, we've got this redevelopment agency. They're going to approve the development anyway. We could streamline this process by eliminating the requirement for the referendum and just have the town deed it over to the agency. Again, it's the town council's prerogative if they want to see this project move forward, if they want to sell this property. It's a policy issue. I agree. It's a determination that belongs with the town council. But this would be the cleanest and quickest and simplest way to accomplish that. That's why the suggestion was made.
Okay, so really it is to sort of, and it expedites the process is
Yes.
basically what you're saying.
That's correct.
Okay. So we actually gift the land, I guess, to the redevelopment agency.
Correct.
And this is where I stumble. Well, I stumble a lot, but this is where I stumble. So they own it.
I'll help you not stumble.
How does the money wind up back at the town?
So again, by way of the resolution, so the town council again can put restrictions and requirements on any action they take. So if they say to the redevelopment agency, we're going to gift this land to you with these conditions. There'd be restrictive covenants. It can only be used for this. And oh, by the way, the revenue from that goes back into the town council can put it in anywhere they want. They put it in the general fund, put it in recreation, give it to allow the redevelopment agency to retain it. Because right now you own and you control the property. So you can set any restrictions or covenants on that property prior to the transfer so that you're protected when the transaction actually happens and it goes to the developer. And
based on your discussions with everyone involved and the agency, and I think Mr. Marsh is on the phone or is there as well, is there an expectation that they retain the money? I've never seen financials from the redevelopment agency. I don't know really anything about any of that. So.
That's a good question, Councilwoman. So when the redevelopment agency first started, it was prior to me arriving with the town. Although when I started working there, I was directed to get the redevelopment agency up and running. And one of the things the redevelopment agency is supposed to do annually is submit a budget to the town council for approval. And they've been working without a budget, and I've been assigned to them to be their administrator. And we've been managing the planning board as well as the redevelopment agency through the planning office budget. So they have no money. They have requested in the past, I think the first couple of years, they requested some minimal funding from the town council, and it was not approved. So you talk about working on a shoestring, they're working for free. But you certainly could allow them to retain the funding or not, and that's the town council's prerogative. But at the end of the day, they've never been funded. They exist as an entity, they function, but there's no funding.
I'm going to let Mr. Brennan speak. I know he's been waiting patiently.
Thank you, Council President. Anything that I was going to add was actually answered as it went along. I was just going to add that my recollection was that the property was 0.143 acres in size from the meeting, and also that the restrictive covenants can be added onto the deed. And I think that that would be wise from the town, in my opinion, based on the presentation that the applicants gave before the redevelopment agency. And I know it was also stated, but I'd also add that this off-street parking is necessary for the applicant to move forward. So if they don't acquire this property, then that condo development will not be built. And I think that was the trade-off that Mr. Carullo mentioned earlier. And I won't speak for the board, but it was my recollection at the meeting that that was the trade-off and the reasoning for the redevelopment recommendation for this sale.
Jim, I see you're here. Jim Marsh.
Yes. So I know that when the board, I believe Mr. Carullo, correct me, it was a unanimous decision on this project. We're slow out of the gate having people bring projects in front of us. They have since picked up. We have the Washington Street project, the old project going on. We have this one now. We have the old Bank of America building, and some other projects that are potentially in the works here. So I think the board, the agency would like to see this project get going. As I was sitting here listening, and I just did I looked up that Washington Street sale as we were talking about it, which I believe is listed as 5 Washington Street LLC. And that did sell for, and I'll just give you an example, that did sell for $75,000, but I will tell you it was assessed for $47,100 versus where this parcel in question was assessed for, I believe it was $3,900. So I think there is something there. I think from being an appraiser for 16 years and being in a real estate development business now, I think I'd like to see that project. There's going to be additional units in the tax roll. So we're going to add that. We're going to get funds from this property for the town, and this property is also going to go on the tax roll. So I think as the agency as a whole, I think we're for this project and we'd like to see it go forward. And that's all I have. Any questions? You can feel free.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Actually, that does beg a question, Jim. There's a document dated March 24th, 2020. To West Warwick town officials from William D'Amico and Jasmine Chaperon. And in it, it actually says that Plat 6, Lot 425, its present assessed value is 47.1. I keep hearing 39 thrown around, so I'm just looking at a document that we were given. Which
one was it?
It talks about, it says the abutting raw lot, unimproved lot, AP6, it should be APL 425, presently owned by the town, does not generate any tax revenue. Its present assessed value is 47.1. Now, I know what people have talked about 39. Again, that's a document dated March 24th, 2020 from Mr. D'Amico and Ms. Chaperon. So
by what was,
I guess that.
Do we know what number that had? Does anybody know that while they're on here, Mark? You know?
You're looking for the lot number? It's,
yeah.
Plat 6, lot 426.
425. Yeah, 426 is the building.
The building.
425 is the lot.
Yeah.
Again, so I'm just going off this document. So if that's incorrect, I just want to.
Yeah.
So,
again,
is that a letter?
Because I've heard 39. I've heard. It is a letter. It's dated March 24th.
I've got a letter, but there's no date on it. So I'm just wondering if it's the same letter. It's probably not, because this one, I can't see a value in this letter.
This is
like
Sal, the Secocia tax assessor. It's 47.1 is the assessed value.
Yes. So
It's just a number that's thrown out there. Town property does not go through the revaluation process.
Oh, okay.
But 47.1 is not 3,900. So that's
right. Well, at one point, I think in 2019, when this process started, it was valued at 3,900.
Okay.
Or the last reval, I would say, if I had to guess, because I do remember that number coming up.
Yeah, I actually have it in the document from AMC Appraisals, Inc. It says it's presently assessed at 3,900 by the town. I can look in, I don't know if it's in the Sweeney appraisal, what the assessed value is currently or not.
I don't remember if it was there or not, Mark, but as I
Yeah,
said,
so-
the document, I assume,
$3,900 would be a value if it was a residential accessory lot. If there was a house there and there was a little
Yeah.
lot on the side, that's about what a residential lot would go for.
Residual land, so.
Yes.
yeah, but I think, as I said, so we should make it clear that it is currently assessed at 47.1.
Sure. It's not in the Sweeney appraisal, so I must have picked it up. I have the other appraisal here, and it's.
That value would be for a buildable commercial lot. If it was on the taxable if it was on the taxable side, it wouldn't have a 47.1 value on it because that's not what it's worth as a non-buildable lot.
So my only other question would be, going back to what Mary Beth said, is restrictions. If we deem this property over to the Arctic Redevelopment Commission, at what point can we talk about restrictions or whatever needs to be? For instance, right now it's a storefront. Will it always stay a storefront? I know it's doctor's offices right now, but obviously doctors retire, do whatever. Would that still continue to be some storefront?
Councilman, I can respond to that. You can't restrict the adjoining lot because the adjoining lot is privately owned. You can only restrict the lot that the town owns, and the town would be transferring. So the restrictions will be placed on the deed for lot 425 or 426, whatever that lot number is, 425. And the restrictions would be similar to what are laid out in the resolution and what I described in the email. And that would be that it can only be used for parking associated with, the adjoining land use. That's a reasonable restriction, I would say. Shall not be developed. You can. I'm not an attorney, but and I could contemplate what type of restrictions you would put on there. I would suggest that those restrictions come from an attorney rather than me, but. So it's parking associated with the condo and shall not be developed for commercial use or any other use, something along those lines.
So,
and then, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so, however, the building is covered by the Arctic redevelopment also, and
Yes.
there are restrictions. So there are restrictions that say it have to be a storefront, and it has to. I mean, that's part of what I read actually, unless that's changed in the documents for the Arctic redevelopment.
Yeah, so no, there is a decision letter that places restrictions on the property and codifies the property as being what it is. And again, if they wanted to change the use of the building property, they would have to come back through the redevelopment agency to get that authorization. But the town certainly cannot put a restrictive covenant on a piece of private property. They can only restrict it through the development review process by the appropriate agency.
Okay.
Zoning board.
So there are provisions that say that, yes, that storefront or retail or however it's worded, I forget exactly, and doctor's office.
Yeah.
It is
yes.
indeed. Okay.
Medical offices, I think is referred to medical offices and 5 residential condominium units.
Okay. I guess I would be more comfortable seeing what a deed looked like before saying yes, it's okay. I mean, and what those restrictions, what other might have, including what happens to the money, instead of just saying yes, okay, go ahead, and not having that in writing beforehand. I guess that's kind of where I stand.
So it's not necessarily the deed that you would need to see. It would be the resolution directing how the deed would be written. I mean, your solicitor's sitting there. I can see the top of his head. So, but good attorneys don't speak unless asked a question. But at the end of the day, I think you could amend the resolution to suit your concerns. Then the resolution goes forward, and I believe, the town solicitor would be the one writing the deed, and that would be turned over to the redevelopment agency's solicitor between the two for the closing or the transfer of the property. And then there would be a subsequent closing or transfer between the redevelopment agency and the developer.
Yes. So the resolution as currently written, I think, doesn't quite address all of those things. So I would be reluctant to actually approve the resolution as currently done. Not, again, just wanted to know all the facts, not saying that it's not ultimately a good deal. I think we should do what we can to revitalize Arctic. But since this is the first one, and Jim, it sounds like you have a number of them in the queue, we might as well know what we need to do right up front on this first one, and not have to go through it each and every time necessarily.
Well, I think this is going to be the oddball of actually selling a piece of property to somebody. I think it needs that often, to be honest with you. So
that would be okay with me.
yeah, me too. Well, funny when we originally, when this board formed and we talked about, the powers of eminent domain or, taking properties, and that all went out the window, but this is probably the more complex thing that we've had so far happen. So just
yeah, I think what I read didn't I read the eminent domain, and that's not the case. It's actually 110% of the market value or something like that. There are some,
Yeah.
So
that's right.
There were grander ideas and thoughts of this whole thing. Right, Mark?
Go ahead.
Originally when
so I think if we could, for my own personal, again, and others may have questions or have different opinion, but I would rather see something more fully flushed out, including where the funds go, how they're used, and the restrictions before approving it. That's just me.
So whoever's going to amend the resolution would need direction from the town council as to what they want the restrictions to be and where they want the money to go. So that's a deliberation among the council members.
I agree with you.
Okay, I agree. Clarify that for the group.
Me personally, I'd like to see the money go into a restricted account temporarily until, we don't have to decide tonight where the 30,000 goes, but if we say that we take the 30,000, put it in a restricted fund, don't put it in the general fund, don't put it where it's going to be affected into numbers or whatever it may be. And then we as a council can discuss later on, because as Mark said and Jim said, they've run a department or a board with zero funds. And, we talk about advertising, we talk about, if there is, it is one-offs with, we got a couple of pieces of small parcels of land in Arctic that I know the town owns. But then we maybe could go out and advertise that land and do things like that with those funds and help that board start redeveloping Arctic.
And I don't disagree with that. As I said, as you can tell by my conversation, I'm not entirely sold on the $30,000, but that's another topic. But again, I would be reluctant to approve anything tonight without having all those restrictions, knowing what they are, agreeing on them, because we as a council may not agree on what those are. And again, I know that time is somewhat of the essence, but I'd rather get it right than rush it along.
Tim?
Yes.
Tim, T-I-M. Did you have anything to comment on?
No, I was just, if the procedure for the town to follow, if we're going to create that, and then all projects after the fact would follow the same procedure, I think, and Al may want to comment on this, you may want to start this with a resolution that's going to outline what's going to happen, and then solidify all of your conditions in an ordinance, because the resolution is just a collective opinion of the majority of the council. So even though this resolution can be worked on, I think you just want a procedural system in place that says, if in fact there's going to be a project, and depending, of course, on the dollars involved, if there's going to be an ask by the redevelopment commission for revenue to support their future endeavors, that might be part and parcel of every future event, where if it's 30,000 or 30 to 50,000, they get a certain percentage, 50 to 75, they get a certain percentage. So you could break it down into what, if any, conditions the redevelopment agency is requesting from a particular project. And then we'd have to break everything else into the comprehensive plan, any planning issues pertaining to a particular district. This is going to be the Arctic Village. Taking into consideration the fact that it abuts Washington Street, which is a state road, any regulatory bodies. So you can break all that down into the ordinance itself to make sure that whatever the town is going to be conveying to the development agency, that's what the development agency can convey to the third party. The town basically controls any future work. And again, as the planner indicated, if there's any decision by the new owner to change the use or change anything going into the future, they'd have to come back to the governmental entity that acknowledged and allowed for this to happen at the beginning of the process. So if we're going to be putting together something collectively for everything, I think that's one issue. But this issue right now, I think the resolution clearly indicates that it's going to be 5-unit residential condominium development, subject to certain conditions, to be located in the vacant portion of the Newberry building. Perhaps those certain conditions should be in writing in the resolution. Exclusively used for parking. That should be in the in every section where it says parking. It should be for the exclusive use of parking. It should basically spell out if there's questions, and the planner can answer this. I don't believe they can go higher than 3 stories. Mark?
Right.
So if they wanted to go 4 stories, they'd have to come in and seek your approval. So everything that can imagine will be put in there. And I think Mark also addressed, is parking going to go in the front or is it going to go in the back? You don't want to leave that to chance. So everything the council wants, I think the resolution would begin the process and then solidifying everything with an ordinance, because again, you're dealing with an autonomous body that has some jurisdiction, but it really is more of a body that's going to make recommendations to you. And again, as the planner already indicated, it is the town's property. And this mechanism of using the redevelopment agency bypasses the financial town meeting and the referendum question. So I don't know if Al wants to comment further.
I'm in total agreement with Tim. The only problem I have is with this particular piece of property, in that I agree you can put the restrictions in the resolution. I agree with Tim about an ordinance. The problem with that is that because you have the ordinance that creates the redevelopment agency, which I'm not familiar with because they have Joe's their attorney and he's familiar with it. I think before any ordinance thinking of the long range could be drafted, it would have to be something of my working with Joe to make sure that the town ordinance, it doesn't come in conflict with the redevelopment ordinance. And just looking at a time frame, there's no way that would come about by the 15th for your next meeting for a first reading. So we're off until January, even before the ordinance would be begun to be considered by the council. So I think that a long range planning, I'm in full agreement with Tim that I think a long range ordinance should be considered, but I don't think it's really feasible in this particular instance. I've had nothing to do with it, so I don't know what the developer's time frame is, but I would doubt that he's looking for something that we're talking January or February
There,
at the
excuse me,
earliest.
there's going to be a second meeting in December, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then do we have time to put together a more specific
Robust resolution, yes.
to outline what the council is looking for? Because again, this is going to be subject to a council agenda item, either at a special meeting, a workshop, or something where we can be advised as to what the council is looking for, what prohibitions you may want, what conditions you may want. So
That, Tim, that's what I agree that I think on this particular matter, the council, in my opinion, could go forward based on a resolution as opposed to the long-range ordinance and worry about the long-range ordinance
I
after
agree,
this
but again,
particular
this
transaction.
resolution needs to be amended to be more
Yes.
specific as it relates to conditions.
I agree with you there.
So my question to the council would be, because time is of the essence and because there will be a second meeting on the 15th, can there be a workshop scheduled with Mr. Brennan, Mr. Carullo, the applicants, and the council to discuss conditions and prohibitions that would be worked into a more specific resolution?
Tim, I agree. I think that whatever resolutions, be it a restriction on parking, be it a restriction that if it's over 3 stories, they got to go to the zoning or use your imagination. I think at this stage, it's strictly a matter for the council to say, we want these restrictions on only use for parking, the money goes here, and put those into a resolution at this stage, and then worry about the future.
So I'd like to hear from the rest of the council. I mean, there's only 2 of us that have spoke on this matter, and I want to give direction because I don't want to come back here on December 15th with and not have any direction.
Can I ask something really quick? We talked about potentially the Arctic redevelopment getting some of the funds, and that we haven't been giving them any funds. Like, what kind of funds? What would they use that funding for, and what things are they not able to do right now without the funding? I'm just curious.
Jim, you can answer that. Jim Monk.
So we originally used to get some money, and we had council, which was Mr. Sakachi originally, then over to Mr. Brennan. So we've basically stripped that money, and so at the time we basically have a per diem or per hour council as needed. If we have a meeting, he'll come, he'll attend. So, as far as the board itself, it's a redevelopment agency, there are redevelopment agencies, and sometimes people have understood what our mission is. Although our mission and our duties in the code say we can purchase property and we can redevelop it and we can, do all these things. I like to think of it more as what number 8 says, and it's basically to undertake technical assistance to property owners and encourage, implement, and facilitate voluntary improvement of property. And I think that's pretty much what we've done so far. As far as me being chairman currently, and that could change, I don't see us going out buying property, redeveloping it for futures or future use, or I think we want to leave that to the private sector. So we've talked before. We wanted to have a chattel. There's more things we want to kind of amend into our bylaws for what the look of the buildings are going to be and that kind of thing. Again, we need legal fees, which we've been supplied with from the council as needed. But as of right now, I don't really see, we're not going to develop properties. We're not going to buy, we're not like the old Pawtucket redevelopment of the province redevelopment. We're not going to buy properties and redevelop them.
You don't think
per
that's,
se.
you don't think
So
that'll be down the road though for you guys as we move forward?
I guess if you wanted to fund it, Jason, and you wanted to fund it and fund it for, let's do it, I guess. But I think I'm a realist.
I'm thinking
not going to happen.
I'm thinking long term. I mean, again, a property like this comes up, and I know there's not a whole lot of properties that are available by the town to sell, but I'm just thinking like of how much money the town could make in the long term if you guys had the capability to do something like that with some properties. I know it would take some investment, but I think at the end of the day, it would benefit the town financially in a lot of different ways if we were able to fund something like that. And I know at this time, at the current state of the world, it's probably not something that's going to be able to be done today, but I'm just thinking, big picture. I know a lot of stuff is going on. More stuff is going on in downtown Arctic than people think. We got the Holmes building that's just been redone. The Newberry building's getting work done. We got the old bank that's getting fixed up by Thunder Mist. So there are some things going on. So I mean, it's a little easier to see some progress. I know it's slow. It's much slower than I would have ever thought before I was here. But it is what it is. But I think it's also important to look at look down the road and see what other things we can do to, and if that is allocating some money to you guys that could be utilized, I mean, again, I don't know how much, I don't know, where it would come from, but it's, if you were able to utilize those funds to make the town more money and help that downtown area, then I think it would be beneficial. So
I think we definitely could use some money. It'd be nice to have some money in the bank. We could, pay for our own legal fees. Again, we want to do some things design wise to have some more direction with design for buildings. So it's a little more clear when people come to us. And I think we kind of held off on some of that stuff because of funding. So I think that would be great. Listen, if you want to give us money, we'll put it in the bank and we'll use it. We'll definitely take it. I wasn't expecting it, and it wasn't my, the town owns the property. So it'd be to me, it's, maybe everybody else would have a different, the town owns it. It'd be if, Joe Smith owned it and he was selling it, he keeps the money, so.
Yeah, to me, if those funds we were going to give you were going to pay dividends for the town, it's benefiting all of us. I mean, you're a separate entity, but at the end of the day, it's all still the town of West Warwick. And it's, we have the same, I think most of us have the same goal,
Right. I mean, we all, not that we have for money at all, because none of us that are on the board are, but it's funny. I used to be board for 12 years and we used to get a $30 stipend. We don't even get paid for it. And it's not that. And, it's certainly not the reason why we do this. I want to see the town prosper, and I want to see projects like this go forward, and I want to help the developers. And I want, Arctic and Washington Street to look, and the other areas that we've got some other things coming in to look great and to prosper and to put stuff on the tax roll. It just helps the whole town as a whole. So that's my goal.
And Jim, I think Jim, that's right. And Jason, I don't disagree with you. I guess I was wondering if one of the charges of the agency is to actually lure developers, not to develop themselves, but to lure developers here to sort of sell West Warwick. Those of us who live here may love it, but I know that's a more difficult sell otherwise. But if we can broaden the tax base on the commercial side as opposed to on the residential side and take some of that bad burden off the taxpayers, that's a win-win. There's no doubt about that. So potentially these conversations are a good thing to have to find out what your needs are. And I think many of us didn't even know really, other than the fact that the agency existed, what your charge is. We can read the ordinance, but is that really what's happening? So maybe it's a good opportunity to refresh what the expectations are.
Well, I think that's true. And when I first heard the last meeting, and I know some of you council people are newer from when we were established. But if you do, I'm sure Mr. Carullo could provide, but I think it might still be up on the website of the town website. We did put an RFQ out at one point, request for qualifications for developers, for anybody that wanted to come in. So I think the response was small, I think, to say the least. And I think there were bigger thoughts back in the day. Years ago, Mr. Boyer could tell you they had another commission that planned all this stuff. They want to knock the whole downtown down and develop down to the river and move everything. And I think, in today's day and age, I think that's a little aggressive thinking. I think we need to take what we have, build upon it, make it better. And like you said, build a commercial with some interspersed residential. I think you need the mixed use. I think you need to bring ownership to Arctic. And that will spur the commercial, coffee shops. We'd love to get another restaurant like Boneheads. Hong Kong's been a mainstay for years. So Once the theater and this COVID's over and the theater's going, I think it's going to be a great thing for downtown. So we want to, that's the kind of downtown we want to. I envision a Westerly downtown, and that's what I've envisioned since day one.
And I've heard people talk about East Greenwich downtown, Westerly downtown, and we're talking about Arctic right now.
Right.
I would hope that we would actually have broaden the tax base across the town to actually help ease the burden for residential taxpayers. So that would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and I think some people.
So
Sorry.
our quarters, so.
Yeah, I think some people look at it and they don't think that we could become a downtown East Greenwich, but it's never going to be exactly the same as downtown East Greenwich. But I think that we could definitely get closer to that than a lot of people really believe, because East Greenwich isn't really, they're really not on the water. They're near the water, but people aren't going there to walk. It's a nice area. They do a lot of great things. A lot of those businesses are able to do a lot of, they close down the street for their little strolls and and lots of things like that. And I really think that, I think that we could get closer to that than a lot of people believe. And I think we're moving, however slowly it may be, we're moving in the right direction in that area.
It's funny. I've been on this. I think
if I could just add that we're getting a little bit upstream from the resolution. Now, the Arctic Redevelopment Agency is a wonderful committee, and everyone knows what you're there for. But I think the council should look back and concentrate on the resolution before them. To make a suggestion to go forward.
I was just gonna make a motion actually that we table this to make it a more robust resolution with provisions in there that talk about restrictions and the flow of the money, so we know where it is. I agree, you probably don't want to wait till an ordinance because that takes too long with advertising, but my motion would be to actually table this at this particular time. Again, great idea, great discussion, but without the details, difficult for me to approve.
So
Mary Beth, a question on that. What restrictions are you talking about? If you're asking either Tim or I to work on the resolution.
Well, I understand that we need to get something together to have that discussion. I understand that, but I don't think right tonight is the time to do it, given the amount of time that we've already spent.
That's why a suggestion, if there can be a meeting, public meeting and/or public workshop with all of the stakeholders, and there could be a discussion about how a more specific resolution is going to look, that can be done quickly, so the council can vet the resolution and its contents at the next meeting, and then either approve it or deny it based upon your debate at that particular meeting. But something has to be done in the meantime between now and December 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So
why do we rush for this? Why does it have to be done by December 15th? This is all, I would say, brand new to many of us. Is it something? If we're gonna do it, I'd rather do it right and take time that we need to put this together.
If I may, Councilman, you received a recommendation from the board, and now there's been questions asked specifically about some of the conditions and prohibitions. So the board that has been put together by statute and by council's request way back when, they've done their job. Now it's before you. And I think time is of the essence, because you may lose your developer, who I don't know if it's got soft money involved, hard money involved, or they're probably need to answer the people too. And Joe Brennan may know more about that than I do, or if Mr. D'Amico is on the line, may be able to tell you. But time, I think, is of the essence, because the infamous put up or shut up. If you're not going to use the money that they've already secured through a lender, they may lose it, or they may lose a rate. There's a million and one reasons why developers want to start moving sooner rather than later. But I don't know if Mr. Carullo or Mr. Brennan want to comment on that.
So I'm not privy to their finances. I believe Jasmine Chapman may be on the line. I'm not really sure. But what I will say is this project has been in the process for over a year. This is actually the third town council meeting that There have been deliberations on this, so I understand what Councilman Licciardi is saying, but I would say in fairness to the developer, who's been at 3, if they're there this evening, 3 council meetings, I think it's time to take some action, or not take action and just reject it.
Well, I would disagree with that, Mark, and quite honestly, we had no information the first time, and it wasn't posted correctly, and the second time we had no one here to tell us what the deal was. So,
well,
I would disagree with that. I understand the frustration, and I appreciate the fact they've been here, but
yeah, I understand, Councilwoman. And I don't want to debate back and forth, but it was not the developer's issue that it wasn't posted and advertised properly the first time. They were on the call last time, and I believe that the obligation was on them at that point. I agree with you, to make a full and proper presentation. That didn't happen. I don't know why it didn't, but you know, it has been a while. So I'm not saying you need to act on it tonight. I'm saying that time probably is of the essence. I do agree with Tim, and that they probably do have they should have a reasonable expectation that the town follow through one way or the other with any reasonable time frame. That's all I would say.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree, but I don't think that needs to be tonight.
No, I didn't mean that, Councilwoman. I meant ultimately it should be soon.
Right, I have Jasmine who's here. I know she's unmuted. So Jasmine, if you'd like to speak.
I just wanted to say that unfortunately, the second meeting, I didn't even know
Yeah, that's right.
that day, like literally an hour and a half before. And I didn't know what the expectation was. We have been presenting many times in meetings and many times. We have given the plans. I gave like 12 copies to everybody. I didn't know that night that it was expected from us to present. I wasn't ready. Nobody told me what to do. Again, it's just things happen. But we've tried. We've done everything we can to present, to meet, to provide all the necessary paperwork. Everything that's been asked from us to do, we have done, and we have provided it.
And Jasmine, I agree.
It's been a whole year. Yes, we do want to get the project started as soon as possible. That is our, our goal. And it is, that lot is strictly for the parking. We do need it. We cannot move forward with the project without the parking. So I don't know what else you guys need from us, but if I'm clear for next meeting, if you need more information, we can prepare. But I really don't know what else we can provide you with.
I don't think we need anything else from you, to be honest with you, at this time, Jasmine. I think it's a question of the council, now that we have all the information, just making sure that we understand and go through and present a resolution that has everything laid out, so we know.
And I do apologize for the second meeting. I honestly.
You don't need to. You don't need to. That's not the intent.
That I wasn't prepared or presented anything.
No, there's no need to be sorry. That it was a miscommunication. We had our part in it too. So that's not the point. The point is, as Jason said, again, I don't think you need to do anything at this point in time. I think we need, as a council, need to just make sure we understand what's going to happen.
Thank you. And we want nothing more than to get this project going, cooperate with you guys, do whatever it is to show you. All we want to do is to just improve that building and just move forward as soon as possible. That is the goal. We are 100% ready. We have been 100% ready for a while now. That's it.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Question I have for the council then, do we want to have a workshop next Tuesday at 6 o'clock?
that's something we do it like this. We're doing it like through Zoom. We got
Yeah.
something. Yeah, no, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
and we invite all parties. That means, so we can go over what we want to see in this resolution, and added to this resolution. And that way there, if it wants to be on the 15th, it's up to the council. It can be in January. But again, I think personally, it has been a long time coming. I hate to lose a project like this. But again, so it'd be on our responsibility to have that workshop, and I just want to know what night works for everybody.
I have one more
Council
question.
President, I'm not available
we
next
have-
Tuesday. It's a planning board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Licciardi?
Yeah, just one more question. So if, I'm sure after hearing, I've digested a ton of information for the last hour, so I haven't said anything. And I've taken a lot of notes. If I have questions regarding anything for tonight, next at the workshop will be the time to ask those questions, correct? This is more for Tim.
Well, no, if you have a question as it pertains to, say, something along the line of the curb cut on Washington Street, you can certainly ask that before the meeting because you may want to get an answer.
But what I'm saying, all right, so who do I ask those questions to
Well, first and foremost,
before a meet workshop?
start off with the town planner. You could contact Al or myself or attorney.
So I guess, Tim, my question is always, I think, is who's the point person for this project on the town end?
Once again, the board has made a recommendation. I think you probably want to start off with the planner. And then if there's more legal questions, you could ask myself and Al, and then we'll be in contact with Joe. But again, if you have questions about, for example, if the parking is going to come from Ashenbo Avenue versus Washington Street, what's the curb cut going to look like? How wide is it going to be? What are the sight lines? Things of that nature. Landscaping, sidewalks, the Arctic Village rules and regulations.
Right.
It's a plan. Things of those nature, of those types of questions or issues, you can certainly ask anyone before a meeting, so you have a better idea.
Well, I've taken 2 pages of notes, and I'm sure I have questions on the notes, and those questions are going to spawn other questions similar to what you're talking about. So I just don't want to, I'd rather go to one person and they can disseminate, all right, I can't answer this, let me get the answer for you.
Well, I would start with the planner, then the planner can probably direct you to the appropriate people or entities, depending on the type of question.
Okay. Thanks.
I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just a quick question. Tuesday night, they have a planning board meeting, so what night would be good for a workshop on this matter?
I'm flexible.
Yeah, me too. Wednesday or Thursday?
All right, I'll send out an email getting a consensus of what night the meeting should work.
Is the council looking to start at 6 o'clock?
If you get,
Yes.
yeah, the only issue I would say, if you wait till Thursday, does that give
Yeah.
enough time? Because the resolution would have to be out on Friday. So I would say Monday would probably be a better option. Just my Monday or
Jim,
Tuesday would be a better option only because.
Mark, Jim, does those nights work for you Monday?
It works for Jim. Yeah, that's not going.
Councilman?
Yeah.
I made a mistake. Al DiFiore just emailed me. The planning board Monday is Monday. Tuesday is free.
All right, so Tuesday will work usually. Tuesday usually works for everybody. So.
Yeah, let's do. If Tuesday's open, Tuesday is the day that I block off, like for anything. So I mean that.
Tuesday it is.
Tuesday, 6 p.m.
Okay.
What time?
6 p.m.
6.
A resolution approving the town council meeting schedule for 2021. The town council will meet on the first Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Per the following schedule, special meetings will be held in accordance with Article 4, Section 404 of the Town of West Warwick, Town Charter, sorry.
Do I have somebody who wants to move the
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion?
Only one meeting per month listed, is that the norm?
It's because the other one goes on the sewer commission side.
Well, should it be listed on the town council also? I mean, I know it's immediately following the sewer commission, but we will indeed meet. And I'm just asking the question. I don't know what we've done in the past, but it seems to me somebody's going to pull that up and think that there's nothing on the second.
Well, we've
On the
always
third
advertised, we've always
Tuesday.
advertised, even before my day, even when John Flynn was on the council, and Leo Constantino, they would advertise the first month. And actually, they're the ones who put the second meeting in. If I'm correct, Tim, you were on at the time, but they put it under the sewer commission and town council meeting immediately after. And they've always advertised one meeting a month on our end. And then we did the sewer commission on that end. I mean, if you want to do it first and third to make it clear, I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt.
I have to say, I agree with Mary Beth, because the first time I looked at it, I saw sewer and didn't realize the council would be following.
Well, here's one of those strange home rule charter issues. The charter only calls for the council to meet once a month. Sometime in the past, the decision was made to stop meeting twice a month. The yearly or the prior year's listing of the subsequent year's calendar never included the second meeting. That was always under, it wasn't even filed for the sewer commission. So it kind of lays out there, because the thought process was it gives the council flexibility to change that second meeting if there's a holiday, if there's an emergency, if there's anything like that. So the Secretary of State has never had an issue with the way the council presents its annualized meetings in the format in which we've been filing them. So, and there's never been a complaint made. And, you know, it's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other regarding the annual listing, because again, you're telling the public under the statute that you're going to be meeting once a month, which is the charter rule. You're adding a second meeting because it's usually needed. But when you do your charter review and you do your amendments, you may think about changing that part that says the council will meet once a month versus twice a month. Because in reality, you can meet as many times as you want, as long as you post the meeting agenda in the appropriate time frame.
So the Secretary of State or the Attorney General will not talk about an open meetings violation because we have not posted as it says to post your meetings. I'm asking the question.
I can't answer that because, again, based upon what I've seen in the past year with the Attorney General, and I'm not being critical, but there have been a lot of complaints made on things that, to me, they shouldn't have been complained about. But this annualized meeting, you're following the terms and conditions of your home rule charter, which says once a month. So if you want to put it down, you can't. I mean, there's no penalty, but no prohibition from the council listing all of your meetings. So
Tim, I had that question last year and you said the same thing. So, I mean, I'm fine like it is.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi?
Yes.
Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Minutes of the previous meeting. Resolved that the town council hereby approves the amended minutes of the November 10th, 2020 and November 17th, 2020 town council meeting minutes.
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion?
Actually, I just have two small items. One is on item number 9 on the November 10th minutes. It says that I recused myself from the item number 9. And I did not recuse, I only recused myself from item T, the second one. I voted on everything but item T, which pertained to my business.
Yeah, 9T.
Right. And then on number 11, it at the bottom, it talked about the project and the update from on the Factory Street. The last sentence says she recommends hiring a project manager who is not a town employee to investigate. That's not true. To run projects of this nature is what it should say.
You get that, Paula?
Yep, I'm just, wait a minute. Okay,
So with that being amended, any other comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
consent agendas, license applications, resolved that the consent agendas having been posted, all matters being referred to the proper departments being disposed or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the license applications.
I'll second.
Does
But
it
I
need
have
to go off the table?
It says it was previously tabled. Is
Not,
that
right?
true?
No.
No, so just let's move the license applications.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Councilman Messier is recusing himself. Councilman Licciardi,
Yeah, I mean, this might be trivial, but if you go down to letter T and letter U, where it talks about the Dollar Tree stores, DBA Dollar Tree number 08552 272 Cohasset Avenue, they just opened. So wouldn't that be a new license for that particular store?
Yes.
it says renewal though, Paula,
Mhm.
in parentheses.
It's new.
So if we can amend that to new T and U. Any other questions, Jay? Councilman Licciardi?
No, I don't.
Any other comment on the licenses? Any public comment on the licenses? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
I'll vote yes. That it's only if we're definitely amending T and U.
yes, we're amending them.
All right, so I vote yes then.
Councilman Messier?
He recused himself.
Oh, he recused himself, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance 2020-19, second reading, sponsored by Councilman Messier, and ordinance amending Appendix C, traffic ordinances of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick. Andrews Ave, stop sign from traveling north on Andrews Ave at the intersection of Rathman Street, and stop sign for traveling south on Andrews Ave at intersection with Rathman Street.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and I just want to make sure, Paula, I see the advertisement, it has been advertised?
Yes.
Just confirming. Any public comment? I have somebody with their hand up. I'm going to allow them to talk. I'm going to ask to unmute. Just state your name and address for the record.
Derek, 62 Andrews Ave. Can you explain what this is? Like, is this the second reading in order to put them up, or what is this?
So it goes second reading, and then it has to advertise once again, and it gets, I think it's 20, Paula, Paul, how many days is it? Is it 20 or
And
4?
then it'll be advertised to go into effect with 20 days from today.
Well, it's kind of funny because all three of them are up already.
All three, the ones on, well, there were, we had had a stop sign put up when you're turning onto Andrews Avenue. And then, you know, we had reiterated, that we wanted a stop sign on Andrews. So there was more stop signs put up into the additional, because this is
So
actually the ordinance.
I've lived here 27 years, and it does the whole intersection thing makes no sense. You got a stop sign traveling south on Andrews at Rathbun. You got a stop sign traveling north at Rathbun on Andrews, and then you got a stop sign on the telephone pole for Rathbun. I don't think we need the 2 stop signs on Andrews. I think the stop sign is legitimate for the telephone pole on Rathbun, but I don't think stopping traffic over there on this road is necessary with 2 stop signs to make it like a 3-way intersection, basically.
It was brought forth by a constituent over there. I brought it before the traffic commission.
I've brought a lot of things up for this road for speed and everything else on the hill. I've never gotten any attention on it. So I don't see that it's necessary. And then we got an ordinance that you were reading for the second time for advertising, and the signs are already in place.
I can't speak to the signs being up. I can speak that if you have an issue and you want it to brought before the traffic commission, then that's fine. We can bring it before the traffic commission. If you have a separate issue, I don't want to compare the two because they're different. As far as if the signs are up, I don't know if Don is in this conversation, if he can speak on that, or Al looked like he wanted to say something.
Well, again, not speaking to the signs, I have no knowledge of it, but the traffic commission would be the proper body to, Derek, to voice your opinion to Major Ashenbolt on the police department as head of the traffic commission, and he's great to work with. I would suggest that you bring your comments to him.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I'm just saying they're already in place, and it doesn't make sense.
I don't know anything about that.
To create that intersection for Rathbun Street when you don't get a lot of traffic on Rathbun Street. You get all the traffic on Andrews Avenue. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I haven't lived here my whole life. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I blew through the stop sign at least 4 times this week. So thank God nobody's watching.
They will be tomorrow.
Exactly, they are now.
The location doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It's just,
Sorry, Derek.
So I don't know. I'm just saying, I mean, we're kind of doing things backwards. We're putting signs up before they're even officially approved.
Oh, Derek, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll find out what happened there. And, I will say they're ahead of schedule on those signs, but again, that's wrong. And unfortunately, even if you do blow through them and they wrote you a ticket, they're not illegal signs. So you'd probably win that one in the court. So we will look into that matter. But again, this is for second reading.
I just think a more of a study should be put in place for the necessity to create a intersection at Rathbun and Andrews. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Any other comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. And also, Town Manager, if you can find out from DPW Director why the signs were installed already.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Councilman Licciardi?
I'm gonna say yes, and if there's a discussion with the traffic committee and this gets reversed or whatever, we'll talk about it then.
This is their recommendation.
So I'm gonna go with yes.
All right. Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
David, if I might interrupt, the next item should have been ordinance 2020-20 for the one-way street on Rice. I would ask that you have that put on the 15th for second reading.
I already advertised that out for the second reading for the 15th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Ordinance 2020-21 first reading sponsored by Council Vice President D'Amico An ordinance amending chapter 4 animals and fowls, section 4-11, definitions 4-21, maximum number of dogs and cats permitted per residence. Exception penalty of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion?
So I'm going to obviously let Al speak to this, but this was kind of prompted by the whole issue with the kennel licensing over the last few weeks. And we've, looked at the ordinance again, and we feel there should be some updating, especially regarding the penalty. So Al, you can speak further on that.
What happened on this was the day after the council discussed the kennel issue the last meeting, I contacted Major Levine and then Animal Control Officer Andrade and discussed it with them, because at that point in time, the next step was for Paul Andrade to give notice to the homeowner about what had transpired and that she would have to come in compliance with the statute, the ordinance. I realized at that time that the ordinance had really no enforcement power to it. It provided that violation provided a $100 fine, but that was it. You pay the $100 and you continue on as you wish. So I contacted Councilman D'Amico and I discussed it with him. And my discussion with him led to the amendments that you see, number one, putting some teeth in the ordinance, putting the ability to move forward and have a court order that it be closed down. And at that point in time, Councilman D'Amico commented on the exceptions of kittens for 6 months and puppies for 6 months. He suggested that be reduced to 3 months. And then I just made a language change in the definition of a kennel to make it what I thought was more appropriate. So basically the change that you see before you is to put some enforcement powers into this ordinance. I can say that in working with Animal Control Officer Andrade, it has been a pleasure, and that he really appreciated going forward with this, because under the past ordinance, he's kind of been working in the dark and trying to make things go as they are. So this is step number one. Step number two, and I mentioned it once before, is under the code update. And working with this area before I sent it off to Municode, I have been in contact with the SPCA to bring our ordinance in line with their way of thinking. There was some provisions of it that I was very concerned about. The gentleman that I'm speaking with there, and Mr. Earl Newman, said that when he gets back to me with a review of our ordinance, he is going to take our ordinance and make some recommendations to put our animal control officer powers and authorities and duties in line with the state statute. So on this particular issue, again, I think this is step number one that I think has to be taken to give Paul some enforcement ability, and then we'll go forward with the code update.
Any questions for Al? Al,
I just have a quick, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mary Beth.
I was just going to ask, I think our last discussion, we talked about perhaps we had issued some licenses in error in the past. Are we just, are those as is, or how are we addressing those?
There are, I want to say 5. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure there are 5 licenses presently issued that expire March 31st of next year that were issued for kennels in residential districts. The ordinance is quite clear that the council has no authority to grant a license in an area, in a district that it is not allowed in, and they're not allowed in a kennel in a residential district. How those licenses got issued, when they got issued, I have not looked in. My thoughts are on it, that there's pretty, my feeling is,
Now, I want to cut you off because my question kind of ties into that. I think I can answer your questions on that. Because I had a in-depth conversation with Paula about it this week. Those kennel licenses that have been issued, and Paula, keep me honest here, those are not actual breeders. Those are people with more than 3 pets. They have 4 dogs or 5 dogs. So that's the aspect of it. Now, where I'm confused is we have a kitten breeder's license, which is $1,000 fee, but we don't have a dog breeder's license, but we have a kennel license. I think we need to look at maybe looking at a dog breeder's fee, which that will keep us out of, letting dog breeders go into residential areas, but also allow people who have, 4 dogs and keep that. And that's why it comes before the council, because the neighbors might not want 4 dogs, or there might be 4 dogs that are a nuisance or whatever it is. So maybe you can clarify why we don't have a dog breeder's license, but we have a cat breeder's license.
well, I only I can say on that is that because that's the way that the ordinances have been. And I hope that with the code update, we will be resolving all of that, where we'll be taking that whole animal section of our code and going through a complete review, as I said, with the assistance of the SPCA, and address those issues. While you're correct, David, that they may not be breeders, the way the ordinance presently reads is that you can only have 3 dogs and or cats in a residential area, and that's it. So that all of that, I'm in agreement, should be revised. All I'm asking for is the time that I've been working, and I've sent notices to department heads and to you, David, about working with the attorney from Muni Code. And this type of issue will be hopefully resolved when we come up with a total code update. I would prefer doing that instead of, again, taking a piecemeal shot at one aspect of this whole thing, looking at the whole chapter 4 of the ordinance and doing a complete job on it. I think a lot of the problems we have with our ordinances is that a problem comes up and we amend section 12, but that messes up section 14. So all I'm saying is give us some time and I'll be presenting a full blown picture to you. As far as those licenses that are presently out there, I don't think there's anything you can do to them. They're there until March 31st. Hopefully we'll have the ordinance in place before that and see where it goes.
Should we give them a heads up that we were reviewing it?
I was going to make a recommendation at the beginning of the year that the council give out some notice to those few people that are in, and say that we've got a problem, and hopefully we'll have some further guidelines by that. But I just think at this point in time, I wouldn't know what to recommend the council to give a notice for.
That's why I was saying, Al, if we do 2 separate ordinances, one would be a dog breeder's ordinance, and the other would be the kennel license. And then we can go from there. And that way it separates the 2 of them in general, because for instance, if I had 4 Shih Tzus in my house, they don't even leave, they wouldn't leave my house, but I would still need that kennel license because I have 4, but I'm not breeding them per se. I'm not making money off of them. But if I decided that I wanted to do that, then I would have to get that breeder's license. And I think that's where, and like I said, I found it strange that we had a cat breeder's license at $1,000 and a dog kennel license at very minimal dollar amount, was kind of weird to me.
I agree with you, David. All I'm asking is that I would prefer not making that separation at this point in time. Yeah. I would prefer doing it as a whole picture of the whole animal ordinance that we've got.
Well, and again, I think once we, and I agree notifying somebody, but if we can avoid putting like a shock into somebody, because let's face it, I know pets are like family, and if you got 4 or 5 dogs and you actually did the proper thing, and all of a sudden the council's going to say you're not allowed to have a kennel license in a residential area, then they're going to be very upset at that point, and maybe they've never even had a problem in the neighborhood.
If the council wants me to move forward on that section of it, I'll do so. I mean, the council directs me, and I'll do whatever the council wants on it.
I did have a hand up in the crowd, and it was Jerry, so I'm going to let him, this is an ordinance, so I'm going to allow him to speak.
Jerry Lee, 172 Prospect Hill Ave. Just a more of curiosity or clarification. Where did we come up with the number of maximum of, like, say 2 cats and 2 dogs? If someone has 3 or 4 cats in the house and they have 1 dog, how does that really bother any neighbor? I'm just curious where we actually came up with that number. Like, it
was before my time, Jerry.
Okay, I'm just curious. Just seems like a strange number.
I'm going to be honest. I had no clue that was the case until last week. Obviously, I knew if you had a whole bunch of dogs, but I didn't know it was that arbitrary number. I mean, that seems like, and Jerry's right too. I mean, like, again, if you had 10 dogs at the house, it's different than if somebody had 3 cats and 1 dog. That doesn't seem like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's bothering anybody. I don't know. It seems very arbitrary.
I didn't draft that one.
No, I know. And again, and we've talked about reviewing certain things over the years, that are outdated, right? I mean, it's not a huge issue. I can't picture it being an issue if somebody has 3 cats and a dog. Obviously, in this situation, it was more of an extreme situation, so I get it. But I mean, those types of things, yeah, again, they're outdated.
All right. Any other discussion on this ordinance?
If we can't see people, at least let us hang out with our animals. You know what I'm saying?
I'll take a roll call vote.
I'm just saying.
Councilman Licciardi?
What exactly are we voting on right now?
We're voting on the ordinance for fowl. Where is it? 2021.
Giving some enforcement powers to the animal control officer.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, I'll vote yes.
Councilman Messier?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recognition from Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea for an extraordinary job by election workers during the 3 unpresidential elections.
Mary Ann put this on.
Yes.
Basically wanted to recognize her department and Nellie Gorbea and with her letter. And I just want to stress this. I'll read it out. It says, "I cannot thank you and your team enough for all the hard work demonstrated during the election season. Everywhere I've gone, Rhode Island voters have thanked me for making it safe and secure to cast their ballot. This success doesn't just happen. Your team played an essential role in ensuring the success of the unprecedented election process. Few activities in government are as important as ensuring our democracy is nurtured by the voices of the people. Your performance during this election cycle in collaboration with the Rhode Island Board of Elections and our elections division has been nothing short of remarkable. Again, thank you for your work every day, preserving our citizens' constitutional right to vote. In the meantime, please take care and stay healthy." And that was from Nellie Gorbea. And I know even during the primary, it all started there. I know Nellie Gorbea visited the Civic Center, and she was very impressed with the way it was taken care of. And I know there was multiple departments who all worked on that. It was the town clerk's office, it was the Civic Center, and it was also the Board of Canvassers also did a great job. So, good job, state recognition. And I know she was very impressed with the primary and the general election. So good job to the clerk's office and everybody who was involved.
And actually, David, you and I had a conversation with Mary Ann recently, and she spoke glowingly about the staff and the people that she worked with during the election process. So,
Yes.
Consideration of employment agreement amended for a term, I can't talk, for the interim town manager, Mark Knox.
Again, we just put this on the agenda. We had spoken to Mark about his interim, his actually acting role of town manager. So does anybody see any concerns or issues? And Mark, if you just want to reiterate what was added on here for them. So
Certainly, I already have an employment agreement as police chief. So essentially this is adding, I believe, 2 items that were budgeted for salary and benefits for our previous town manager and passes those on to me while I'm the acting or interim town manager. And if and when I go back to the police department, those would stop and I'd return to my normal police chief agreement.
I like the if and when. The only issue I would have is, did we make you acting or interim?
I'll let Tim answer that because I asked the same question.
The charter calls
I
for.
thought we made you acting.
Right, but the acting town manager, if you look at the charter, there's provisions as to whether or not the manager is coming back because of either disability or whatever. Without knowing when the council might post the position, interim town manager is going to work better in this instance for one simple reason. Anytime Mark is called to sign a document, the title interim town manager, believe it or not, carries a lot more weight with some of our state agencies than acting town manager.
Okay.
So I just want to further, because we don't need Dave and Mark to sign documents together because Mark is only the acting. As the interim, he's going to be given the, let's say, all the bells and whistles that the normal
All
town
signing. Right. Okay, I know that there was a distinction made, but I'm all for it. And as I said, if and when sounds good to me, Mark.
any other questions? I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilman Williamson,
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
2022 budget timeline.
So I emailed it to you and it was obviously attached to the agenda. It's just standard at this time of year. I kind of present a budget timeline in hopes that we can follow it.
Yeah, Kristen, I have really crummy eyes with this one right now, but I could tell you March says 2020. That should be 2021, right?
Yeah, I missed that one. I'll fix it.
I won't take credit for that. It was actually pointed out to me. I can't
That's
see it.
the only one. I thought I had them all. Yeah, it should be March 2021. Yeah, I'll fix it.
Kristen, do you see any issues or obstacles at this point in time?
No, I think now that we're set up on Zoom.
Other than the unknown, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, last year we just, I think we stalled because we weren't sure how to handle everything. But once we got rolling with Zoom and we had our meetings and everything went fine. So I don't really see any issue.
Any questions from the council?
Perfect. And if we can get some money from the feds, that would be great.
That would be great. It's already fixed, all fixed.
Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Kristen on the budget timeline? And you'll be doing a lot of this from home, Kristen?
I will.
Thank you.
I will. I'm actually very far along though in that personnel supplement, so I've put a good dent in it.
Good. Thank you.
Appointment for the West Warwick Housing Authority member. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a West Warwick Housing Authority member for the town of West Warwick, term to expire on November of 2025.
I know we have two applicants here. Thought I saw two, yes. I know we have Jerry Lee and Deborah Taco. Deborah did send her letter in. She's been on the board now for, I think, 6 or 8 years. She does a great job, good contact point. And I think Jerry would do a great job too, but I'd like to move the name of Deborah Taco.
I'll second the name, Dave Taco.
Any questions?
I just want to say, I also think Jerry would do a fantastic job. I mean, he certainly serves his town well in many capacities, and we appreciate that. But as you said, Deb has been serving there for a very long period of time and brings that experience to the board.
Any
Yeah,
other
I've always
comment?
felt with my votes, it's if you're on the board and you want to get reappointed and there's no issues, it's really your spot to lose. So I'm voting for Deb Taco.
All right. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes, and I do agree Jerry would do a great job too, but Deb has been there for a number of years and brings some continuity.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Appointment for the Arctic Redevelopment Commission. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as Arctic Redevelopment Commission committee member for the town of West Warwick, term to expire on October 1st of 2025.
And again, we do have two applicants here. I think Jim had to sign off, but Jim Marsh was here earlier. So some of you who haven't worked with Jim or you actually got to deal with him a little bit tonight. Again, I think this is the same situation. I think Jerry would do a great job on this board. But Jim also is a great asset on this board, and he's been doing it 12 years. As he said, not a single dime. And he does really care for the town of West Warwick. I know when I talk to him about real estate, and sometimes I get questions of how many houses are up for sale in West Warwick or whatever. I can get on the phone with Jim and he can get me all the answers with that. And he's a great asset. And any questions you have in the Arctic area, he can get you answers for, and I think kind of said that tonight. So, and again,
I second.
I didn't move any name yet, but if somebody wants to move a name.
I'll move the name of Jim Marsh.
And I'll second.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for Jim. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Licciardi,
Yes.
Councilman Messier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson,
Yes.
Councilman D'Amico,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Appointment for an alternate zoning board of review member. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as an alternate zoning board of review member for the town of West Warwick, term to expire July of 2025.
Paula, I thought that there was another applicant. I know there was another applicant unless she would.
Before
Yeah,
we
I'm
discuss
sorry.
it, can we just move it and then we can?
Oh.
Have a motion to move
To move what?
the appointment, and then we can talk about other applications. Don't move a name, just say I want to move the appointment to zoning.
Okay, I'll move the appointment to zoning.
Do I have a
I
second?
follow direction.
All right, now you can discuss it.
I was out for a while, so I didn't have another application. I only had this one. So I don't know the answer. I only had this one application for zoning. I didn't have another one, but I was out for a couple of weeks.
So I want to say this was on the agenda, I want to say almost 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I was out before that too. So I don't
No,
know.
I know you were actually, you had FMLA and then you had
And then I was just,
other, you were on
So
quarantine,
it's,
so. Go ahead,
so,
Mary Beth.
no, I think Tim would be a great candidate, but I believe there is another, I believe there is another application out there. I believe Michelle Lombardi had applied for that position as well. And it just doesn't seem fair to me that we don't at least, and she may have taken it off, I don't know. But I think if you go back, you'll find that, and at least it should be acknowledged that she applied at a minimum.
If at least we can reach out to her and we can put this on the next agenda.
Okay.
But just reach out to her and see. I know Tim actually reached out to me also and asked if, because he thought this was going to be on the agenda almost 2 months ago, because that's when it should have really been on. But I know you were out, Paula, and I know Mary Ann's out now, but that she was actually didn't put any appointments on because it was in your folder somewhere or something. So we'll just reach out to Michelle Lombardi and see if she's still interested. If so, if we misplaced the application, tell her to at least get the application back in with us. She should already have a background check because she's on the pension board, so we can go from there. And that way, we don't make her pay for another one.
okay. I'll call
I
it.
would move that I'd move we table this one.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Upcoming appointments, we will use Board of Review, one alternate member vacancy with a term to expire 10/2021, and one vacancy with a term to expire 10/2023. Pension Committee, 3 vacancies with terms to expire in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Zoning Board of Review, 1 alternate member with the term to expire on 7/2025. Patuxent River Authority, 1 vacancy with a term to expire 6/30 of 2023. West Warwick Housing Authority, 1 vacancy with a term to expire 11/2025. Arctic Redevelopment Commission, 1 vacancy with a term to expire 10/1/2025. West Warwick Public Library Trustees, 1 term to expire 2/2021. Recreation Committee, 1 vacancy. Juvenile Hearing Board, 1 vacancy. Term to expire December of 2024. Public comment.
Can I just, Paula, may I just, and I know I ask this all the time, I assume that the Housing Authority and the Redevelopment Commission were just filled up above. Is that correct? These aren't additional ones. These are
the ones that are on the agenda. I have to keep them on the bottom. So next agenda, they'll be removed.
perfect. Thank you.
We're going to appoint anybody like zoning board, that table.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
That's the reason. Designation portion of town council's open meeting for citizens to address comments to the town council relating to matters affecting the public business. Rhode Island General Law 42-46-2, 3, and Rhode Island General Law 42-46-2, 6. Comments will only be addressed to the town council, who will take them under advisement. When addressing the town council, please state your name, address, please conduct yourself in an orderly, respectful fashion. The comments of citizens accessing this portion of the meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body, but heard as requested. Members of the town council being duly elected by public body as identified in Rhode Island General Law 42-46-2, 3, have no obligation to respond to public comment.
I just want, before we move on with that, one of the things we got to look at, I know our charter actually says anyone on zoning cannot be on another board. So that might have been the reason why that application did not get in there, but we just want to confirm that. So we can look at that. That's the only board. I think you can't be on another board to do that. Any comments from the council? All right, I do have one hand up in the audience. It's a Galaxy S20. I'm going to ask to unmute and just state your name and address for the record. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now, Dave?
We can.
Good evening, Council. Pete Cottrell, 25 Nowicki Street. Back in August, David, you and I had a conversation out in front of my house, and we discussed the stop sign on the back end of my house on West Street. Where does that stand? I know we touched base probably, I don't know, a month or so ago, and I'm not sure if you spoke with Jay or I was supposed to speak with Jay, but what goes into having a stop sign put in place for the safety of the community?
If you, so
Go
I
ahead,
can answer that. If you, did you, I don't believe you sent me, did you send me an email, Pete? Because I don't think I ever
No,
received an email.
Councilman.
So I would say,
Councilman, it's
Yeah.
the one I spoke to you about, because Pete came to me and I talked to you and
Okay.
you know, so that's probably why.
so Pete, what I would suggest is, and then I'll tell you exactly what goes into it when any constituent reaches out about whether it's a stop sign, speeding, any kind of traffic issue, I forward that to Major Archibald, and then it goes before the traffic committee, and then the recommendation comes back to the council. So if you could send me as detailed as possible, exactly where, you know, exactly where you think you'd like the stop sign and exactly what you think the issue is. And then it'll go before the traffic committee, and then, you know, then their recommendation comes back to us if it's in the affirmative.
What kind of investigation do they do? Because I mean, I've been in front of the council several times, probably even before your time, Jay, about this same stop sign. In David can testify when he was here in August. Quote me if I'm wrong, David. You had said, "I know exactly what you're talking about now." You know, you have cars coming south that are, you know, if you're coming south on West, and you come around, Jay, you know where I live.
Yeah.
You come around that sharp corner, and the cars coming north. The cars coming south are in the northbound lane, going around that corner.
David,
So-
if I might.
Yeah. So I, as far as what goes into, and Al would be a better person to tell you about what goes into the traffic committee meetings, because the town council is not part of those meetings. Al, correct me if I'm wrong, yourself, Major Archibald, somebody from the DPW, is it Freddie? Is Freddie on it still, correct?
I'm not part of that meeting, but what happens is, it goes to Major Archibald, the police department takes a look at it from their perspective, and then there are various department heads. I don't recall exactly who they are. I know the town planner's on it. I know somebody from DPW is on it. I believe the fire chief is on it. I know Major Archibald from the police department, all of the people that would be involved in that type of a decision, taking in all the aspects of it. And they decide that they think it's a good idea or not a good idea. And if they vote in the affirmative, I get an email to prepare an ordinance. And if they vote in the negative, that they report it.
I would strongly suggest that they look deeper into this. I believe you said Freddie was on. Freddie knows what I'm talking about. His guys were just here last month or so, putting the berms in, and even his DPW employees were like, they fly around here. And there were times where I'm like, hey, you got to watch your back, you know, as they come south. Coming north, they're fine. Coming south onto that corner, you got to do something to get those people to stop and stay in their lane on that side.
I mean, so what I would suggest.
Hold on, Jay.
Sorry.
You know, with COVID now, there's not a lot, you know, people can do, and there's an excessive amount of people walking their animals, walking their children, and there's been plenty of times where I've yelled and other neighbors, you know, watch out, you know, somebody's going to get killed out here, and this isn't the first time that I brought this to the town. And I think it's a simple fix by at least attempting to have them stop in front of that house.
If I might make a recommendation to you, if you send, because the referral to the traffic committee comes from a council person. So my suggestion would be, if you send to Jay a full statement of the stuff you've just said, he can then forward that on to Major Ashenbo, and that will give the major a chance to know exactly where you're coming from. And I know I've worked with Major. He's even taken me out to look at intersections because he does such a thorough job on it.
Okay.
So my thought is that if you go through the council person, and then I'm sure that if there's further questions, the major will look out towards you for it.
Okay, so get together, email Jay a detailed email.
Yeah, exactly. And be as thorough as possible. That way, again, like Al said, that way, when Major Archibald's out there, he can, he knows exactly what the specific issue, and there's no confusion of where you think, what the issue is. And then again, the traffic committee will review it to see, what steps to take. By an expert of where to put stop signs, or, that's why when those things come before us, we take the recommendation of the traffic committee 9.5 times out of 10. We'll take their recommendation.
I can tell you from personal experience, Pete, that they are extremely thorough, even to the point where I've been requested by the major to go with he and Chief Arone out to look at situations.
And trust me, they have told us why, if they recommend it, and if they don't recommend it, they also tell us why, and then we also have to report.
And there's the rare occurrence that they deny, and we put it in. I know, for example, me and Councilman Licciardi, the one on Pulaski Street, I think was in the negative, and then we put it in. So it does happen, but it's very rare. I think that's the only one I can think of since I've been on the council.
I wouldn't say it's rare, Jay, because I've been in front of the council numerous times for this specific stop sign, along with the one that Fred had put out, in front of my house. This is directly behind. But I'd also suggest I will do that email as you requested. But I think it's also it would be a good thing if you actually came out and visited and stood on the corner or in my yard if you want and watch. I mean, Councilman Goslin, he stood out here and we watched the cars, and he was like, "Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about now."
Yeah, no, I get it.
We almost watched one hit the building coming around the corner, and then right up onto Pete's back lawn almost.
Well, it's a good thing that the berms are there now, so they don't go over the lawn anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, send as much detail as possible. Again, the more is better, and I'll forward it over. Again, I don't know when their next meeting is, but they typically meet, I think, at least once a month, I think. So if you send that over to me, I'll make sure that they get it on their next meeting.
All right, cool.
All right, thanks, Pete.
And last but not least, if I don't hear or see any of you before the 24th and 25th, happy holidays.
You too.
Same to you, Pete.
And congratulations to your new family member.
Oh, you got to meet him. Thank you.
Any other public comment? I see no hands.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. It's time to motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll see you next Tuesday, 6 p.m. And thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks, Chief.